Morning, Hockey Nation Live fans. I am going early because I have a messed up day again on my calendar. So, unfortunately, I'm hoping that Pierre can join me as per normal at 11 and kind of take things over. But I wanted to start a little bit early and get some time in. So it might be a little lonely this first part because I'm sure most people don't expect this to go live until 11 a.m. So hopefully you can go back and check some of this out. Right now we don't have anybody on, so yeah, that could be interesting. So last night was a busy night in the NHL, but there was some unfortunate news out of Los Angeles with Quinton Byfield. We know in the Arizona versus LA game had been pushed into the boards and fell really awkwardly. And when he fell into the boards, unfortunately, it turns out he's broken his ankle. So we have Quinton Byfield out indefinitely. It doesn't sound like it'll be a long-term injury. They're saying they're going to reevaluate him in a couple weeks. So I don't know the severity of the break. But unfortunately, Quinton Byfield has a broken ankle. So not great news for Quinton or the LA Kings. I think that they realize that he needs to keep playing with better players to get better. He made a lot of progress last year in the AHL with Ontario Reign. And I kind of thought that he might start with Ontario, but I think they were giving him every chance to be on the team. But unfortunately, this kind of is a bit of a setback for him. I don't think they were counting on him. Good morning, Greg. And I apologize. I've gone on a little bit early just because my personal schedule is a little messed up. So I'm hoping that Pierre can jump on just before 11 Eastern time and take over the mantle. But I wanted to get some time in and comment on some of the stuff that's going on. So just commenting on how it turns out that Quinton Byfield's broken his ankle and is going to miss some time. So I think the LA Kings aren't really counting on him being in their top three lines, maybe not even top four. Because if you look at them, they do have a lot of depth down the middle. So right now they've got Kopitar, Philip Dano, and Gabe Vilardi. And then Blake Lizote's been playing very well. They have been playing Jaret Anderson-Dolan on the wing, but he's a very, pretty capable centerman. So they have a lot of depth down the middle. I don't think they were worried about Quinton being in there. I think they're just trying to push Quinton's development more than anything. So this will be a little bit of time out. So hopefully that is not a serious long-term injury. If you saw it, I can't show it, obviously, unfortunately, because of the copyrights. But man, it was terrible. He was pushed into the boards and his leg was like flayed out like this. And it was like, I was worried he broke his knee. Good morning, Frank. Thanks for joining. I know it's a little bit early. Do I think the NHL should cut down preseason games to like 5? Too many injuries are happening. Well, we've seen this in the past where they have reduced the number of preseason games. So they're back up to 8. So I don't know. I think I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I think we all want the season to start, but it does give players an opportunity to get ready for the season. It does give them an opportunity to evaluate players that are not going to be on the roster, going to be in the AHL, and give them an opportunity to play. I don't think it's a big revenue generator depending on who the matchup is. So it's possible, but I think it's definitely, you can see like goalies right now, like a lot of goalies that we're expecting to have great seasons are not playing well. Are they not playing well because they're working on their game? Who knows? But I think they need this time. There's so many guys. You got 50 guys on the roster to really get their systems in tune. I think it just increases the quality of the game when the regular season hits. Good morning, Sean McIntyre. Thanks for joining. What is going on with Carey Price? Says he's stepping away from the team. So that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Let's take a quick look and see what's going on. So likely to miss the start of the season. Apparently he's got a non-COVID illness. So I don't know what that means. That doesn't sound good. It's a progression, getting on the ice, not too much for building around. That's interesting. It says Carey Price won't be able to practice with the Canadiens before the season starts. Says they'll ease him back once he recovers from his illness. So we know that he had off-season surgery to repair like his knee, his torn meniscus, and he was supposed to be like kind of 10, 12 weeks-ish. But now it sounds like he's got something else going on. They're saying it's not COVID related. So I'm not sure what that is. It sounds like they're keeping it somewhat private. Doesn't sound like they're expecting him to miss the entire season, but I think they knew they were going to start the year without him. It just shows, again, the value of having kept Jake Allen. So that's turned out to be a very good decision. And exposing Carey Price, it would be interesting to know behind the scenes, like we knew that he had the knee injury, was part of what they communicated to to Seattle specifically. Hey, just so you're aware, this guy has this other sickness. So that would be interesting to know, because that might have factored into Seattle not taking him. It also probably factored into, there's something else going on with the league. The league itself, I have not seen that. I'm just reading about, we knew he had the knee injury and he's got this other illness, but I haven't seen anything about the NHL. Oh, interesting. They're saying that the NHL and NHLPA announced he will be away from the team to take part in the player assistance program. So I think usually isn't that for, I don't know if that's the substance abuse program or is it something else? Does he need counseling? That's interesting. It would be interesting to know what that's about. Like what I always worry when guys get knee injuries that they prescribe pills for them, and we just saw Robin Lehner come out about that, and I think that's like always been a bit of an issue. It's his idea to expose himself in the draft, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. Usually, if a player has a substance abuse problem, they will announce that that's the program he's going into, like for counseling. But now they said the player assistance program. So that's really curious, isn't it? Thanks, Sean, for bringing that up. I was not aware of that. Good morning, Dan Asham. Thank you for joining. I'm on a little bit early just because my schedule is a little bit screwed up this week. I was on an airplane yesterday during our normal time, and then I sent Frenchie a note saying I have a meeting that's been booked with me despite what's on my calendar. So I have a client meeting, unfortunately, this morning. So I wanted to jump on early and kind of talk about what's going on. So that's interesting information. So I wonder how much of this the Canadians were aware of and Seattle were aware of during the summer. I'm guessing this wasn't a new problem. We knew he had meniscus issue. Sounds like maybe there's something else going on. They described it as an illness. So that's what I was going to say, because, I worry, for example, you have a meniscus knee injury and they prescribe these opiates and they're super addictive. Like, it's crazy. And Robin Lehner just brought this up. Like, Robin Lehner, people get mad at him because he's very outspoken, but what he said was, yeah, well, I got addicted to painkillers after an ankle injury. Are we seeing the same thing with Carey Price? That'll be very interesting to come out with. Like, the NHL's got to pay attention to this stuff and come up with some policy around this if they don't already have it. And the NHLPA, there's no way they're not aware of this stuff. I think you got to be very, very careful. I mean, this stuff is terrible. Like, pain management and this whole industry is just brutal. I mean, we've seen the OxyContin crisis, and it goes to make sense where, NHL players, I think we saw Tom Sicisto, that's his name, and he was responding to Robin Lehner on Twitter, and he was talking about how he got Toradol, and they gave him so much that he didn't feel anything. He felt great and was able to go back out and play. And Toradol's non-habit forming, that they say. However, you're basically, again, using painkillers to overcome pains, because NHL players, like hockey players in general, don't want to miss time with injury. Time is, like, if you're not on the roster, you're not helping the team. We play an 82 game schedule. It's a physical sport. Guys get hurt all the time and they battle through injury. And, that this is going to be very interesting to see what's going on with Carey Price. So thanks, Sean, for bringing that up. I was not aware of that. So I talked about before about the Quinton Byfield injury. So it turns out the awkward fall wasn't an awkward fall. He was pushing the boards and he was in a vulnerable squat down. And I can't remember who the defender was that shoved him into the boards, and his knee was out. So it was like the inside of his leg, and his knee was exposed. I thought he could have popped his knee, but he broke his ankle because I think his foot jammed into the boards first. So he'll be out for an indefinite amount of time. Good news, though, was last night, the LA Kings in preseason game against Anaheim, crosstown rival Anaheim Ducks, they started the game down 3-0. Well, they stormed back and they end up winning this exhibition game 6-3. Anthony Stollers was the goalie for Anaheim. Cal Peterson did not start great, but finished well. He made 39 saves, and the LA Kings got a hat trick and an assist. So 4-point night for Artur Kaliyev. So I think this is good because, just last night I was thinking, wow, the LA Kings so far have been a very low scoring team in preseason. And I really kind of worry like where the goals kind of going to come from. They had sent down Kaliyev to the AHL along with Alex Turcotte. They recalled him along, and I think also Jaret Anderson-Dolan, and they all factored into the game last night. So I think this is a good move. It worked out. So we'll have to keep an eye on Quinton. It doesn't sound like it's a long-term injury, but if this was the impetus to bring back Kaliyev, Turcotte, and Anderson-Dolan, they showed last night that they want to stick. And Kaliyev erupted in the second period. He got 2 goals. One of them was assisted on by Alex Turcotte. The other one was assisted on by Anderson-Dolan. And then Alex Turcotte also gets on the board and gets a goal in the third period. Brendan Lemieux continues to play well, by the way. Like I've commented to Frenchie, I was watching the preseason or the training camp, and the line of Blake Lizotte, Lias Anderson, who came over from New York Rangers, former very high draft pick for the New York Rangers, and Brendan Lemieux was terrorizing the other team's defense every time they're on the ice. They forecheck extremely well. They're all quick and gritty to score areas. And now I think Anderson's moved up a little bit in the lineup. So Lias Anderson is emerging as an excellent pickup by the LA Kings. He's playing great. We saw he got an assist on the Kaliyev goal. I think he's moved up in the lineup a little bit more to the third line, and he might be an effective second line guy. So he looks really good. Brendan Lemieux looks really good. And now Kaliyev busts out. So hopefully this is good news for LA because Kaliyev has a reputation as a goal scorer. So basically he's a big time goal scorer that needs to score in the NHL consistently to stick. Because the rest of his game I don't love. Although he does look in shape and it looks like he's playing well. Like he has had a good camp. I was watching the Panthers behind the scenes that happened a few years ago. And on the shelf, the players' locker room, there's a bunch of meds, Tylenol, Advil, and some other stuff. Yeah. I mean, I understand non-habit forming meds because there's injuries all the time. There's inflammation. And I get that. My concern is when a guy goes on surgery or if they're prescribing opiates, these things are super highly addictive. We know there's a massive like Oxycontin epidemic of people being prescribed these habit forming drugs. And Robin Lehner spoke out about it. And I think he's probably right to do that. So I think, Dan, what they're saying is that he's entering the player assistance program. I'm interpreting that as a substance issue. We know he had meniscus surgery in the summer. Is this a recent thing where he has surgery, they get him on pain meds, and now he's dealing with coming off the pain meds? They've described it as an illness, but I think that's, you got to read into what the NHLPA and NHL has just said today through Elliot Friedman, which is that, he's going to enter that assistance program. Is Dano playing? Absolutely, he's playing. Dano right now is on their second line for LA. So I don't know if did he play last night? Listen, Dano's going to have last night. He didn't, but he played the prior game. So he played against the Coyotes on the 5th. He their second line center. Gabe Vilardi, frankly, should be their second line center. And I think what they're talking about is pushing Vilardi to the third line. But if you've watched Gabe Vilardi in preseason, you've watched Gabe Vilardi in training camp, this guy's got a rocket of a shot. He's a very good playmaker. He's a big guy at 6'3". He's dangerous around the net. He's hard to play against. I cannot see Vilardi not moving up into the second line center role and Dano going to the third. I realize they gave Dano all that money, but Dano's not going to produce offensively with this team. I don't see it. I just don't see even the numbers he's had in Montreal, I don't see him doing that in LA. LA has become a very fast team. I think they've got to figure out their offense, but you can see from like Turcotte to Anderson-Dolan to Lias Anderson to Artur Kaliyev, Vilardi, they've been keeping Kachuk, the Russian kid, around. They're trying to improve the overall skill level of the team. I think they've done that, and Dano's not going to fit into that. That being said, what Dano does on the faceoff circle, on the forecheck, two ways, shutting down the other team's top center, that's something that I think will work very well in LA. And that's why I think he'll probably just end up on the third line at some point. And I don't think you get too hung up on what he is getting paid. All right, I have about 9 minutes, guys, and then I have to jump to a meeting, unfortunately. I'm hoping that Pierre is able to join me shortly and he can kind of take this over. So that's kind of the story last night. Although, so 4 points for Kaliyev, 2 points for Turcotte. This is really good news. Goal and assist for Turcotte. Jaret Anderson-Dolan gets 2 assists. Unfortunately, Gabe Vilardi, as I say that, he only won 29% of his faceoffs last night. I'm kind of shocked at that. And he was a -2. So that's bad news because he's been dominating the faceoff circle, I thought. But maybe that's just my perception. Maybe I'm too excited about him. I don't know. He looked like he was having a very good camp. So that's interesting information. That's actually kind of weird. I'm kind of surprised. And we know they started down 3-0, so he must have had a really bad first period. Zegras got his third assist last night. Did we see him score too? No, I guess we didn't. I thought he scored it. I guess they got all their goals in the first. Delorier, Silverberg, and Reichel scored for them. Interesting. All right, so another games last night. This was a really good game, which was Boston versus Washington. It's not hard to figure out why he was able to play so well, being that hurt. They probably started ever since 20. You never know because he's had a bunch of injuries, right? So it'll be interesting to see what the details. We don't want to speculate. I'm sure at some point it'll come out what's going on with them. Just that announcement makes me think that Carey Price, the issue is related to some sort of substance, problem. And I think that the training staff and doctors have got to take responsibility for that because a player's not prescribing this stuff to himself, and you've got to be paying attention that he's dealing with this problem. But we know it's super highly addictive. Like you go to the dentist and your dentist is prescribing you opiates. What? Like, come on. They say if you're on that stuff more than 5 days, you can be addicted. And then like a year later, they say 30% of people have been on, I don't know if it's Oxycontin or an equivalent, some numbers, like 30% of people that have been on it for 7 days, even if it's for your dental thing or something else you've been prescribed for. I think dentists are to blame too here, guys, are still addicted to the stuff a year later. 30%. That's crazy. This is an epidemic. It's a problem. And the NHL is going to have to pay attention to it. All right, quickly, this was a pretty stacked lineup for both teams. We saw goals from Charlie Coyle for Boston, Kuznetsov for Washington. Kuznetsov had a real good game. He got a goal and assist last night. We saw a goal for Taylor Hall, which is good news for Boston because he's going to be a big part of their success this season, especially with Krejci gone. TJ Oshie scores. This guy keeps on trucking from Everett, Washington. TJ Oshie. Best player so far to ever come out of Everett, Washington. David Pastrnak gets a goal. Holla gets his third assist. So that's good news for Boston also if he's cooking. And Charlie Coyle got a goal and assist last night because they need really consistent seasons from Coyle and Holla to cover up for the loss of Krejci. Anthony Mantha scores the game winner in overtime. This was a real good game if you can go back and watch any of it. Very, very solid game to watch. I'm not a fan of either team, but it was excellent hockey. In the other game, the Rangers versus the Devils. Rangers kind of spanked the Devils roster. Big night from Mika Zibanejad, who pops a couple goals. We saw a goal from Capo Caco. Barclay Goudreau, who signed a pretty big contract on the offseason, scored. Artemi Panarin from Ryan Strome. I think Strome's going to have a great year, guys. I don't know why they haven't already signed this guy. And if you're a team and you're looking at, hey, the Rangers aren't going to sign Ryan Strome, go for him. This guy's going to be an awesome second-line center. And the fact that Edmonton let him go is crazy. It's getting good. He is getting help, but it would be a bad year for the Habs. Yes and no. If you look at last year, Jake Allen's a pretty capable goalie, and he's played a lot of seasons where he's had 50, 60 games. Obviously, the best player on the team is Carey Price. But I think they've got a lot of depth this year. It's going to really be dependent upon the defense. frankly. I think the goaltending will be solid. The defense with the loss of Shea Weber is going to hurt. So we see two pretty big, key pieces with Shea Weber and Carey Price out. Those are tough things, obviously. So yeah, to overcome that, Jake Allen's going to have to be real good. Montembeault did not have a good start, but I think he'll be solid for them. Yeah, I mean, it's not good, but I got to think he's going to come back. We'll find out. Yeah, Montembeault struggled last night, and then Lindgren struggled. So maybe they have to acquire another goalie. That'll be interesting to see. But I think Jake Allen's very capable. So I don't think that that's true. Jake Allen's not a bad goalie at all. He in St. Louis, was always struggled being a number one a little bit, but not really. If you look at his numbers are very good, and he's had like 55, 60 game seasons in St. Louis. He's pretty capable. It wasn't until Jordan Binnington came along and took the goaltending up a notch and had the big run in the playoffs that Jake Allen lost that starting job. But he's pretty capable of being a, kind of mid-tier NHL goalie. He's not Carey Price, but he's not a bad goalie at all. So last night, big night for Zibanejad. Capo Caco gets on the board. We saw Artemi Panarin get on the board. And I was saying, if you're a team and you think that the Rangers are at all not going to re-sign Ryan Strome, then maybe you approach them and try to get this guy, because I don't think he's a number one center, but he's an excellent number two, and he meshes very well because he's a great 200-foot player with Artemi Panarin. So you can play him with skill players, and he does a lot of the defensive stuff that they don't necessarily do. All right, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap this up quickly because I got things going on. I'm hoping Pierre can jump on. Let's see if he's I haven't heard back from him if he's able to jump on. Detroit Red Wings last night lost 4-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus continues to play really well. We didn't see any points from Lucas Raymond. Riley Barber, who's probably destined for the AHL, got a goal last night for Detroit. Dan Renouf, who's also destined for the AHL, got a goal last night. The big story last night for Columbus, though, was Patrick Laine dangling everybody. So if you haven't seen this, go watch it. It looked like a 6'5" Pavel Datsyuk as he went through everyone. I kind of said this the other day to Pierre about Moritz Seider, because Moritz Seider kind of dove for the puck one way and then he walked around him. But, he wasn't the only guy. There was like 4 guys that he went through. It was crazy. I said about Moritz Seider, there's a little bit of a problem with his skating. So there's a lot to like about Moritz Seider. Good morning, Enertap. And I jumped on a little early just because I have to, unfortunately, wrap this up pretty quickly here because I got a business, like a work meeting. I'm hoping Pierre can jump on and kind of take over the mantle here. But in the Detroit game, we saw a great game from Patrick Laine. Jakub Voracek is fitting in very well. So this is working out great so far. Jake Bean has got his 3rd assist last night. Werenski's factoring in. I think once again, we've underestimated how good Columbus is going to be. They're going to be competitive. This might be a team that we keep writing off, but once again, they look like they might be really good. Jack Roslovic's been a little bit quiet in preseason, but you've got to be encouraged by the play of Cole Sillinger. You've got to be encouraged by the play of Patrick Laine and Jakub Voracek. All right, so let's see. So that's kind of the Detroit-Columbus game, 4-2 for them. We didn't see a great game from Nedeljkovic. We have yet to see Andrei Nedeljkovic look really good. Tough luck for Byfield, absolutely. The broken ankle is not good news. I'm hoping Pierre pops in here in a second. But I don't know. I'm hoping he can, because I'm going to have to, unfortunately, jump off onto a work call in a second. Oh, my goodness. I apologize, guys. That's why I started a little bit early, just to kick this off and get some information in. We saw a great game from Nikolai Ehlers and the Jets. He got 2 goals last night. Jets versus Flames. The Flames, I don't know. I don't see much going on there. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. We've yet to see Monahan really play great so far, so we've got to get him on the board. All right, guys, I unfortunately am going to have to drop off. This is not great. I'm going to give myself 1 more minute for Pierre to jump in. Let's see. He's able to jump in and keep going. Darn it. Yeah, it is definitely Michael. Thanks for joining. Make sure you guys, you do hit like and subscribe on the video. Really appreciate you guys joining. I'm hoping that I can get him to join. And unfortunately, I have to go into a meeting. So I'm going to remove myself. I hope everybody has a great day. Check out some of the other games tonight. I commented on Calgary versus Winnipeg, St. Louis versus Minnesota. Minnesota wins 4-3 in overtime. We did not have Kaprizov in this game. We did not have Marco Rossi. Oh no, Rossi got an assist last night. What am I talking about? So Marco Rossi gets his first assist on the overtime game-winning goal. So that's good news for Minnesota. All right, I hope everybody has a great day. I apologize, I do have to drop off, but I think I've covered all the games. We heard the news. Good morning, Canadian Giant. I'm going to pull myself out if Pierre can join, but I have to go to a work meeting. So I'm going to leave it open for a little bit. If you want to hang on, let's see if Pierre joins and I can pass the baton to him. Otherwise, have a great day. If it gets to about 5 minutes after, I will remove the stream, and I will see you guys tomorrow on Hockey Nation Live. Okay, that was a long pregnant pause, guys. I'm sorry, but my meeting actually wrapped, so that's perfect. And unfortunately, it looks like Pierre wasn't able to join. Um, Good morning, Corey Hill. So thanks for hanging on there, guys. It was a bit of a 12-minute interruption in the streams. Yeah, so the big news, and I want to thank Sean for bringing it to my attention, is about Carey Price. It sounds like that there's something other than his meniscus injury that's going on. So they have the NHL substance abuse. They haven't used the word substance. They've just said the NHL assistance program. So what I'm interpreting that as is that there is some sort of an issue related to, I'm using the word substance, and he's had a lot of injuries and a lot of surgeries. We saw Robin Leonard come out about the opiate issues that he had and the claims he made, and I think they're probably very valid. So I think there's going to be some interesting stuff that comes out about this. And hopefully what Robin, it'll be interesting to see also, like, what did they know in the summer? What did they communicate to Seattle? Was Carey Price paramount for exposing himself because of this? It could be. It could be like Drouin, right? Um, so maybe the assistance program is that, right? Maybe it's like a mental health thing. Interesting. Well, so we talked about the Quinton Byfield injury. We're not sure how long he's going to be out. We reviewed the games. Let's take a look at what to expect ahead tonight, because we do have some other games that are coming up. All right, so on the docket tonight, what do we got? It's Thursday night, October the 7th. We have Senators versus Canadians. I'm assuming Pierre is doing a live stream of that game. So it should be interesting to see who each of these teams dressed. And in light of all the news with Carey Price, I'm sure there'll be more discussion on the broadcast about what's going on. And I don't know how much more information we'll get, but it'll be interesting to know, like, is this a substance issue? They haven't specifically said that. So maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. And like you said, maybe Intertap, it's more like what's going on with Drouin, where he's overwhelmed. There's a lot of injuries. He's questioning something, and maybe he's got some other issues going on. So that'll be pretty interesting. I don't know if there's any information out about who to expect in the lineup ahead of tonight's game and who to look forward to, but we obviously won't see Carey Price in the net for Montreal. I think this is a good thing that they've retained Jake Allen, and my assumption is it'll come out that that's why they made sure to retain him and not lose him to Seattle, and they exposed Carey Price. A couple storylines. Obviously, Ottawa still without Brady Tkachuk, and we're hearing different things. The Red Wings to finish behind Buffalo in the Atlantic. I'm not sure who Jay Fresh is, but it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't think we've still seen the whole Red Wings lineup together. We haven't seen Tyler Bertuzzi in the lineup, really. Dylan Larkin looks pretty good, but what we're seeing from Dylan Larkin is he misses a lot of opportunities, but he also creates a lot. And him playing with Lucas Raymond's a good thing. So I think there's a lot of X factors there. It would not surprise me to see Detroit get 30 wins this year. I think that's probably a good number for them. They were pretty competitive last year on the interdivisional. And I think that Rasmussen will have a really good next year. We'll see Veleno take some steps. We're all looking and hoping that Philip Zadina takes another step, and that's a big thing. We see Lucas Raymond, and I think that he's going to be dynamite. I bet you the guy gets 50, 55 points this year. He is such an elite offensive player. He's very smart without the puck. I don't think he ever makes bad decisions. I don't see his physicality being a big issue. He looks like he's going to be an elite player, and that's what Detroit really needs. Moritz Seider, I think, is going to have parts of the season where he really struggles. And we saw it last night when Patrick Laine walked through everybody. Moritz Seider diving for the puck, turning his skates. There's some issues with Moritz Seider's skating. You can see it in straight line speed, and you can see it in pivoting. He's a big guy with a big reach. He's willing to use that. It's pretty tough to hit a guy if you don't have stability on your skates and mobility laterally. So I think that that's going to get exposed. I would not be surprised to see Moritz Seider start the season with Detroit, maybe get some AHL games. That wouldn't shock me. Bobby Ryan has very well documented issues from a family perspective. Very dramatic situation that's been publicized about his dad. So lots of pressure there. He's a softer guy. I think there's a lot of pressure on him, and I think it's a tough city for him to be in a Canadian city. It was much better for him in Anaheim where he could just like blend in and be part of a group. And I think Ottawa was really, really, really a tough market for him to be in, especially with the expectations. Coach will be live right after the press conference. Okay, interesting. There you go. I understand Dylan Larkin plays center, but do you think it would benefit to move to the wing? Possibly. I mean, I don't love him. I um I don't love him as he's not a number one center, let's put it that way. But he's got elite skating. And he's got the ability to score. He can score, but he misses a lot of shots too. So it's almost like he's a little bit too fast sometimes, if that makes sense. And I think the 1 year where he had 30 goals, it looked like he had kind of figured it out that you don't always have to go at 100. Sometimes you need to vary your speed and create space. And I just don't think he does that very well. So he would, to me, be a much better second line centerman. But who's their first line? They really don't have anybody right now. So you look between Rasmussen, you look between Larkin. Like, what other center? Like, there's no reason to move Larkin to the wing at this point. That's kind of my point. Until they have a true number one centerman, there's nobody there. Verana is going to come back and he's a winger. He's going to be out for quite a while, unfortunately. Zadine is a winger. So I think really you look at their centermen, they don't have a true number one. The hope is that Jonathan Bergeron eventually emerges, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. So I think for him, maybe, but I think he's just a better second line centerman than a first line. And what we see, though, is he's playing with a highly skilled player in Lucas Raymond, who's very smart with the puck, makes quick decisions, shoots the puck very well, and that's working out well. Larkin misses opportunities, but he's able to capitalize on it. He had a very good first game, and I think that's a good mix. If he's just playing with straight-ahead guys like Tyler Bertuzzi, you're going to see a different game from Larkin. I don't think he'll have offensive production. Again, neither way, I don't think he ever has any sort of number one center capabilities. Can't see Buffalo and Anderson finishing out of Detroit. Yeah, I think Buffalo is going to be a little bit better than we think. I think Tage Thompson looks like, as long as he's healthy, he's going to be offensively productive. Casey Middlestad really looks like he's going to be offensively productive. People don't understand how good Dylan Cousins is. Cousins can play the wing and center. Jeff Skinner's looked pretty good in preseason, so I think he'll be dialed in. I think Buffalo has a great coach. Like, he looks like he has the ear of these players. That being said, there's not enough on that roster, and their goaltending is not going to be good. Like, their goaltending will be well below average in the NHL, and I think that's going to really hurt them. So I just don't see them finishing ahead of Detroit, but it might be competitive. I think that they're going to compete every night, and they've got a lot of talent that's going to get an opportunity to play, like younger talent. And I think that's probably good for them. I think the goaltending is going to be a mess. Like, they've sent down the Finnish kid already. And so they're counting on Aaron Dell, who I don't think he's definitely not a number one in the NHL. And Craig Anderson, I think, is the other goalie, right? So he's ancient. And I just, his best days are well beyond him. Dylan and Connor McDavid. Yeah, so Connor McDavid doesn't have to slow down. He can do things at very high speed that no other player can do. That's the difference. Connor can explode in small areas, but he just finds angles constantly. And if Connor McDavid's at top speed, he doesn't have to slow down. That's what people don't understand. He doesn't have to slow down to do what he's doing, because what he's doing is what no other player up to this point, I think, to this level has ever done. Most players want the puck on their stick. What Connor McDavid does is he's a power edge pro player, and they've really pioneered this idea of placing pucks and retrieving them. Placing pucks and retrieving them. So I think that what you see is he goes faster and faster and faster, and there's no way a guy can skate backwards as fast as he goes forward. And most of the time, players have to slow down to do stuff with the puck. What he does is he keeps advancing the puck to the next spot and then getting it. So he moves the puck to a spot, reattaches to it. And that's what people don't understand about his game. That's very, very, very unique. So Bergevin expects Price to join the team this year. That makes sense. They're very different. But there's an element of that where, Gretzky would move to where the puck was going to be, and he understood that too, like advance the puck and then go to the next spot. So I think that's actually somewhat a good comparison. He's a way, way better skater than Gretzky ever was. He is a skater, like, he might be the fastest guy in the NHL. Like, who's faster than Connor McDavid? Now, Dylan Larkin, top speed is probably up there. He's pretty close. However, he can't do the things that Connor McDavid does. He's a little bit erratic with the puck. He doesn't make great decisions. So I think there's a huge gap there between Connor and everybody else that way. All right, so interesting. We do have watch tonight for Andrew Agozzino. Will he continue to get an opportunity to be in the top 9 of this team? Sanford's look good. Pinto's look good. I know that Pierre increasingly likes Nick Paul. Josh Norris looks like he's kind of settling in as the number 1 center. Tim Stützle hopefully will be in the line. But with no Brady Tkachuk, this is going to be a rough go for Ottawa. It's going to really depend on also. So, but I think without Brady Tkachuk, I'm not sure how much better they get. So games tonight, Ottawa, Montreal, we see that 7 Eastern. New York Islanders and New Jersey Devils tonight, 7 Eastern. Florida and Tampa Bay play again, so that's interesting. Pittsburgh and Detroit, that'll be interesting to see who's dressed for Pittsburgh. A lot of their top guys are out, but Jeff Carter's played very well for them in preseason. And there's a Czech player, I think his name is it's big 6'6" forward to keep an eye on. And he got last year. He had 4 points, 2 goals, and 2 assists in 6 games. And let's see if I can pronounce his name correctly. It starts with a Z. Zahorna. Keep an eye on Radim Zahorna. If he's dressed number 67, this guy might be a shocking breakout player for them. Is Montembeault capable to handle backup position for a year? I think so, although he looked horrible that first game. Montembeault, I always thought, was a decent backup, but maybe he's not quite there. He's still pretty young. Maybe he just needs to settle in with the team. The defense in Montreal is a little bit not great. Like, I know they signed David Savard to plug a hole, but David Savard did not play well in Tampa. And I think we saw problems in David Savard's game there that are carrying over to Montreal. I think that they've got to figure out who plays with who. Does Caden Gooley stick around? Does Fairbrother come back up at some point? Fairbrother looked very good to me, and I think he might be ahead of Savard at this point. But I know he's young, but he doesn't play young. He plays a mature, tough game. Yeah. Montembeault, 46 shots. Well, there you go. So, he let in 6 goals, though. Was that what he let in? I can't remember. He did not have I didn't think he had a great game, but that's a lot of shots. That's way too many shots. He needs to face half of that, right? Like, how do you get it down to 25, 26 a game? That's what you need to do in the NHL. You can't be doing this other stuff. So check out, if you watch the Pittsburgh-Detroit game, it'll be interesting to see if Radim Zahorna plays in this game. He's a 6'6", 25-year-old. He's a big guy with some offensive skill, and we saw him score the other night for Pittsburgh. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm kind of curious to see how he does and if he's on the opening night roster. And other games tonight, Panthers Lightning, we know it's 7 Eastern. Penguins 7:30 against Red Wings. Blackhawks and Wild. Will we see Kaprizov against tonight? Will Marco Rossi be in the lineup at the same time? I want to see these guys play together. Last night we saw Rossi get his first assist, so that's good news for Minnesota. Colorado Avalanche versus Dallas Stars. I think Dallas is going to have a huge bounce back year. I just think they're just too deep not to. The Avs, we saw McKinnon finally get in and had a bit of an impact. How's the D and the goaltending look? I don't think we've seen them all together yet. So I think Colorado's using the preseason to get guys integrated and to see what else they have. And there's a lot of changes in Colorado. Even in Carolina, too. Would it make sense that you would Ottawa Senators, Colin White, Brandstrom, Paul Thompson for Jack Eichel? I wouldn't do it. I mean, I can't see, first of all, why would Buffalo do this? Makes no sense for Buffalo. Why they would retain money and then take a bunch of pieces. Like, Colin White is not a first-line center. Eric Brandstrom's not a first-line defender. Nick Paul's a third-line guy. Lasse Thompson's got potential. And then a bunch of picks. So I just don't see this being the type of package that they're going to accept. They're going to want more like a Josh Norris and some other parts. If they're going to, if you replace Colin White with Josh Norris, they might consider it. Should I be excited as a Panthers fan to see Denisenko? I don't know. I mean, I think that Owen Tippett to me looks like he might be ready to take the next step in his development. So that's the player I'm interested in. Heponiemi, I've heard, has played very well. I haven't really seen that yet. And Denisenko's got talent. I think that the biggest thing for me, the big players are going to be the big players, right? Barkov, Reinhart, Sam Bennett. What kind of season does Sam Bennett have? Those are the bigger questions. And can Owen Tippett stick in the top 6? Because he looks like, he's taken another step. Like, he looks very good in preseason. He can really shoot the puck. And if you have a playmaking center with him, that could work out very, very, very well. So I think there's other players to be excited about. Not that Denisenko is not an interesting or exciting player. I don't know if he's going to be able to have an impact on Florida this year. All right. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining the stream. If you haven't already hit like on the video, I appreciate you doing that. We're just going to wrap up the other games to expect tonight. So we said Avalanche and Stars, 8 p.m. Eastern. It'll be interesting to see who Colorado and Dallas dress in this game. Canucks and Oilers, again, is this where we get to finally see Peterson and Hughes? I have not heard yet, but we know they've both signed. So at some point, we're going to see them in preseason. Oilers, Connor McDavid looks ridiculous. Jesse Puljujarvi is having an absolute breakout at preseason. Does this carry over into the regular season? I kind of think he's going to have a big year. What we've not seen yet is Yamamoto has not played great so far. So that's not good news for Edmonton, but they're getting great offense from Brendan Perlini. Can he maintain that pace? I'm not sure. He's already got 5 goals in the preseason. So checking out Oilers, there's some interesting storylines there. Darnell Nurse looks great. Does Duncan Keith play in this game? The goaltending is always a concern. Koskinen does not look good in the preseason for them. Huberdeau, Barkov, and Verhaeghe together and put Bennett, Reinhart, and Tippett on the same line. Yeah, I could see that being logical. That would make a lot of sense to me. I could also see Huberdeau coming down to the line with Bennett and Reinhart moving up. So that would also make sense because Verhaeghe tends to be on the left side. So I think what you're probably going to see is Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Reinhart, and then Bennett, Huberdeau, and Tippett. That would make a lot of sense. But you still have Hornqvist in that mix. Puljujarvi, it's a good question. He's been playing a little bit with the top line, but Dave Tippett really moves around Draisaitl and McDavid. So we've seen him a little bit with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and then we've seen him with Draisaitl, and we've seen him with McDavid and Draisaitl. So he's being used in that role again. He's really dominating around the net. We know he can really, really, really skate, and he can shoot the puck, and he's a big, big guy. So I think he's going to have a great year. Your screen's black. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Hopefully that's not something I've done. All right, just to wrap up the other games to expect tonight, the final one, Coyotes versus the Vegas Golden Knights. We know the Coyotes have sent back, I believe, Don Gunther, because I think he played last night in the WHL. Sven Barchi is getting an extended look. I don't know. Pierre's more optimistic than I am about Dadonov. I'm not sure this is going to work out for them. The guy that had a huge night the other night was Peyton Krebs. Peyton Krebs had a 4-point night in his last game. I'm not sure if they'll dress him again, but I said this in the offseason. They feel very comfortable moving out Cody Glass. Nolan Patrick has looked very good for Vegas, and I'm optimistic that if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top 2 centerman on that team. He probably ends up being the number 1 at some point if he keeps progressing, but he looks really good. Peyton Krebs, though, probably at some point, this guy's going to be the best player on this team. He's going to be a star. He's got all the jam that you want in a player. He's not a big guy, but he doesn't care. He goes to scoring areas. He wins battles for the puck, and he's got a high hockey IQ. And he shoots the puck well, and he passes the puck well. Like, there's nothing Peyton Krebs doesn't do. So he looks great so far in the preseason. I'm not saying he's going to have 4-point games in the regular season, but I think he's going to have a very productive year. And he gives them a little bit more creativity, but with grit. And that's something that Cody Glass never had. Nolan Patrick, you can see the obvious skill level of Nolan Patrick. He's a big guy. He can handle the puck. He can shoot the puck. And he's looked very good. So I think this move is going to work out very well for Vegas. I was a little surprised that Philadelphia moved on from him. And we saw them get a little bit older. It's interesting. Voracek is in Columbus again, and he looks great for Columbus. So does this carry over to the regular season? I got to think this is going to work out. He's meshing very well in Columbus, particularly with Patrick Laine. How many games do you have to play in order to qualify for the Rookie of the Year? Because I'm not sure if Tippett had. Yeah, Tippett's not eligible for Rookie of the Year, I don't think. Owen Tippett played I don't know. It's 25. So let's take a look. I'm pretty sure that he's not eligible because he's played 52 NHL games. He's not a rookie. Carey Price asked help from the NHL. He'll be out for a while. Hi, Love Bunny. Thanks for joining. Yes, so it sounds like I didn't see the press conference. Let's see if we have any more details. I think Intertap might have seen it. Let's see if we can take a look or not. Because he just literally had a press conference. And I don't know if we know many details on if this is like, is this a counseling mental health issue or is this something else? So I'm sure on Twitter there's a whole bunch of details now, right? Well, it's trending. Are you shocked? I'm not. So it's trending on Twitter. Let's take a look and see what we can learn. Voluntary entering the NHL Player Assistance Program. So let's see what the media release says. That's all it says. So it doesn't say the substance abuse program. It says the player assistance. Yeah, I think Tippett looks really good, Michael. I think this is going to be a really good player for Florida this year, which is a bonus because they got a lot of other pieces already. Mental health, whatever that means, right? Like, so I don't know if he's like, yeah, counseling, right? That's what the NHL assistance program might be. It might be more about counseling, kind of similar to Drouin, which is what Enertap. Yeah, so they're keeping this close to the vest. Like, is this like an emotional issue? Is this a substance issue? We're not sure. They're keeping it close to the vest, but they expect him to be back this season. So, thoughts out to him. He's had a rough go injury wise over the last number of years, including surgery in the off season. You hope it's not a substance abuse problem, and I'm glad that he's getting the help he needs and he's asked for help. And I'm wondering how much Robin Lehner speaking out in the last week is prompted him to say, you know what am I sitting in silence for? Yeah, it's not good for the Habs, but it's good that he's getting the help he needs, and that's more important. And things do happen all the time, right? We just, now we have social media to amplify everything. So I'm sure these are not the first time, but guys tend to be tough and try to keep some stuff to themselves and deal with it themselves. So if he's asking for help, then that's positive, right? Not when you say not a coincidence, I'm not sure what you think. Oh, related to Robin Lehner. I think you're probably right. Like, I think a lot of people were upset that Robin Lehner's so brash and outspoken, but what he said was real, right? Like, he was telling the truth. And maybe it prompted Carey to say, you know what am I doing? Like, this guy's telling the truth. I owe it. I need to come out and get help. And that would be interesting to see if there's a connection there. And I think Robin Lehner's a tough, brave guy. Like, we're seeing, maybe upsets people because hockey can be kind of a toe the line type of sport. It's very much about the group, and you have success when you play as a team. And there's a little bit of that code there where you don't break ranks, and guys that do sometimes have a hard time in the dressing room. But I think this is, your personal, mental, and physical health, and guys expect to be taken care of and not be put in vulnerable situations. So Robin Lehner speaking out about that, I think, was a good thing overall. I didn't like what he did with Vigneault. That made no sense, but that's another matter. And I'm glad that this is coming out, that Carey Price is getting the help he needs. So I guess we'll see if we learn more in the future. I'm sure at some point when he's in a better situation that more will come out. All right, so that's a wrap on the games tonight. So again, the final game tonight to watch, and we kind of talked about some of the storylines with Vegas. I don't know if there's anything else. Obviously, the big news is about Carey Price this morning's, and thanks for Sean for bringing that up initially. Coyotes in Vegas, so we'll get to see players I hope I don't think Carey will be traded ever. I think Carey Price retires as a Montreal Canadian. Why would he be traded? That makes no sense. And nobody's going to want the contract, but I think that he retires a Montreal Canadian. And you don't trade a guy because he's coming out for help, unless he's asking to be traded. Is he saying, I can't deal with the pressure in Montreal, where the news, weather, sports, lunch, breakfast, and dinner is hockey? Maybe that's what's going to come out, and that's a tough market to be in. The Panthers game this past Tuesday, that was what, the 5th? So let's go back and refresh Michael's memory. They won 3-2 against Tampa. I'm not sure if the lineup was full. Like Vetrano, that was good. I thought Tippett played great. I mean, I think the Tippett, that's why, I'm basing what I see from Tippett in that game and saying, he looks really good right now, but it's preseason, right? And I don't think, like, if you look at this lineup, they had Braden Point in, so that's fine. They had Palat in, Killorn was in. That's kind of it, right? They have Joseph. You don't see Stamkos. Well, Stamkos had a terrible preseason. I'm worried about Stamkos. Obviously, don't see Kucherov. So they don't have their full lineup in. They also don't have the big Swedish defenseman, right? Hedman's not in. So I don't know. I think those are things to pay attention to. It is preseason. There is a lot of hockey in preseason right now. Yeah, I think Love Bunny's probably right. I think he retires as a Montreal Canadian. Ottawa Senators have 6 centers. Should Ottawa trade Colin White? You keep asking this, Corey. I don't think they have to trade him at all. I don't see why. He's not that important. He's not that valuable. Just keep him. He can play left wing or center. I don't see what they're going to get out of this that's going to help them. Just keep him. Subban was in a bad mood last night. I don't know why was Subban in a bad mood last night. What happened? The 6-2 loss to the New York Rangers. The Rookie of the Year award is a regular season where prospects debut during the playoffs. He's played 52 games, Anthony, so he's not a rookie. Habs are in trouble. They don't carry Price. Maybe. I don't know. They got a lot of depth. I think it boils down to how does the D perform? Because Jake Allen's a very capable goalie. I think Montembeault can be a decent backup and get 20, 25 games. Jake Allen has a history of being able to play 55, 60 games. Obviously, the star players carry Price. If Carey Price ends up playing 20 or 30 games this year, that's a bonus, right? Based on what we're seeing. So that takes a lot of that load then off of Jake Allen, and they don't have to rely on Montembeault. So I think they'll be okay. Oh, yeah, I did not see PK Subban wrestling. Did he lose? Oh, yeah. You have to play. It's 25. I think it's 25 NHL games. So if they play 22 or 23, they'd still be eligible. And then there's a cumulative number. So if they have accumulated 36 games, I think it is. I think it's 9 or it's 30. Maybe it's 34. 9 plus 25. Because we know that you can play a guy 9 games, send him back to junior his first year, and then he can come back, play 24, and he's still eligible. If he plays 25, I don't think he'd be eligible the following year. Corey, your number one idea is trading Colin White. I get what you're saying, but I don't, and I think we've said this before. There's no reason to trade Colin White. He has not shown, I don't know if he has that much value. I don't think that he's expensive, and they have no salary pressure whatsoever. The biggest problem right now is Brady Tkachuk. Get Brady Tkachuk signed, and maybe Brady Tkachuk's the barrier to that, or Keith Tkachuk is. That's the biggest issue. Tim Stützle is eventually going to be your number 1 center. Pinto, we see, can probably play a second line center role. Josh Norris might be a number 1 center for them, like kind of a 1B. So you're right, they have guys, but Norris can play wing, and Stützle we see is already playing wing. And Stützle played left wing in Germany. So I think that they're fine. I don't see Colin White being a big priority. And I don't see him bringing anything back that's that exciting. Oh, there we go. See, I didn't really watch that. He tried to injure Reeves. He's a big guy. He plays chippy and he can skate. So that's interesting. NHL Hockey Nation. Oh, okay. Hi, David. How are you doing? We won't make the playoffs without Carey Price. Maybe. I mean, that's possible. I mean, you've lost Shea Weber. You've lost Carey Price. I think there's good young players that are debuting. and they made the playoffs last year without Carey Price. They made the playoffs with Jake Allen being their number one. Now, it's a shortened season, and that's interdivisional, and they had points where they struggled. And I think that's reality. Yeah, well, you should have drafted Tkachuk, Love Bunny, and your general manager picked Jesper Kotkaniemi, who he lost for nothing. So when that draft was on, Pierre and I were both at that draft. I'm like, why would you pass on Tkachuk? And it was like, no, we need a center. It's like, you don't draft by position. You draft the best player. And that's what people always say. And I think that's borne out. Would they have been able to retain Brady Tkachuk? I don't know. And I've always maintained Tkachuk might be a decent centerman. He's got a high skill level. Good morning, Stefan Manberg. Thanks for joining. When White is out 4 to 6 months. Because of injury, you mean? And his trade value? What rookies that debuted specifically during the playoffs qualify for this year? I don't know. I'd have to make a list. That's great. Thanks, David, for joining. Please hit like on the video so that we get a little bit of action. We can bring some new people in. Coach will be on at 12 noon today with details of the press conference. Great. Thanks, Tap. He didn't tell me that, so I don't even know. Anton Lundell is playing his first preseason game today, so that's positive. That's good. We know he hasn't been able to play up to now. I think he was dealing with some sort of an injury issue. So I think it's a positive that he's getting in. We'll see what we get from him. I think he's going to play in the NHL this year at some point. Maybe he plays a little bit in the AHL. He's capable of playing center. He's a decent winger, but he's physically, I think, very ready to play in the NHL. He's a better skater than we thought. And he can do a lot of stuff that isn't fancy. Like he can forecheck and backcheck, and he's pretty reliable 200-foot player. So I like Anton Lundell. And I think he's going to have a little bit better career than maybe people thought. No Barkov, Hubie, and Ekblad tonight. Interesting. Okay. Thanks, Love Bunny. Appreciate you joining. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Pucks and Nations and Hockey Nation Live being our two channels. All right, so we've run down all the games to expect tonight, some of the storylines. When you look at Quinton Byfield, what was your comparison for him? I think you need to be patient with Quinton. Quinton Byfield is not a finished product. He's big. Like I saw during training camp. He's 6'5", he's 210, 220. He doesn't have great balance on his skates. I think they've addressed that. You can see he's skating with a lower center of gravity. I think he needs to do that more stability and power. But he's got parts of his game he needs to work out, right? But he's got a high skill level. But if you look in the OHL, what always concerned me was in the OHL, he would score goals in transition, in breakaways, and in 2-on-1s, and you're not going to get those opportunities in the NHL that much. And he's not fast enough to get those opportunities in the NHL. So what he needed to learn, and you could see it in the World Juniors, he really struggled playing off the half wall and down low. He was knocked off the puck constantly. So his potential, his ceiling is high if you can address those problems. And I think the best thing for Quinton Byfield was he played in the AHL last year. And I think we saw that. He improved. I don't think he would have improved that way in the OHL. I think he needs to play against the best players. And I think LA has recognized this, that you push him, you give him feedback, he's very coachable, and he's going to get better. What does that mean for him? I don't know. Is he a number one center in the NHL? Not right now. Is he a number two? I don't think right now. I don't even know if he's a number three right now. But he's got all the physical tools to be a real good player if you can address these other problems. But those problems are holding him back for sure. And he's young, right? The guy's 19. So I think you just be patient with him, keep pushing him and giving him challenges, and help him develop. And I think that's what LA is going to do. They don't need him to be a star. They have Kopitar, they have Velarde, they have Dano. They have Jaret Anderson-Dolan. They got a lot of depth in LA. Yeah, Kachuk's, I can't see Tkachuk going anywhere. You just sign him at some point. All right, thanks, David. Thanks, Tap. Appreciate you guys joining. We will see you tomorrow on Hockey Nation Live, and check out Coach Frenchie's going to be on very shortly in the next 13 minutes to talk about the Carey Price situation a little bit more.